The restaurant lights were soft and golden, the kind that made every table look romantic from a distance, which is exactly why the group of coworkers at the corner table couldn't stop laughing. Across the room, a nervous single father adjusted the sleeves of his old but carefully ironed shirt, unaware that this blind date was never meant to be real. It was supposed to be a joke. A prank. Something to record and post later. But 10 minutes from now, not a single one of them would be laughing. And by the end of this story, you might understand why kindness, real kindness, is something the world is starving for. So if stories that restore your faith in people matter to you, make sure you support content like this, because real stories deserve to be heard. Armin had never planned to be a single dad. 5 years ago, he was just another mechanic trying to build a small life with his wife and newborn daughter, Hea. But life doesn't always ask permission before it changes everything. His wife died in a road accident when Hea was only 8 months old. Since then, Armin had lived every day for one purpose: to be both mother and father to his little girl. He worked long shifts at a garage. He learned how to braid hair by watching YouTube tutorials late at night. He memorized cartoon characters even though he never cared about them before. He skipped meals sometimes so Hea could have better school supplies. To the world, he was just another tired working man. To Hea, he was her entire universe. His co-workers, however, saw him differently. They didn't hate him. They just didn't understand him. Armin rarely joined lunch gossip. He never went out drinking. He always rushed home. And in environments where sarcasm was currency, quiet kindness was often mistaken for weakness. One Friday afternoon, someone joked, "Let's set Armin up on a date. Maybe he'll finally smile." Another added, "Yeah, but who would even go out with him?" Then someone mentioned a girl they knew, Sana. Deaf since birth. Socially awkward. Quiet. Kept to herself. To them, it sounded like a harmless joke. Pair the boring single dad with the weird quiet girl and secretly record the disaster. They told Armin it was arranged by a mutual friend. He hesitated. "Bro, you deserve happiness," they said. And because he was lonely, because he missed adult conversation, because somewhere deep inside he wondered if life still had space for love, he agreed. That evening, he almost cancelled. Hea had a mild fever. He sat beside her bed for hours. When she finally fell asleep, his neighbor, an elderly auntie who adored Hea, insisted she would watch her. "Go," she told him. "You are still young. Don't bury your life." So Armin went. When he entered the restaurant, he saw her sitting alone. Sana looked calm, almost fragile. She kept checking her phone. When he approached, she stood politely. Her eyes were kind but cautious. He spoke first. "Hi. I'm Armin." She froze slightly, then gently pointed to her ear and shook her head. He immediately understood. He didn't panic. He didn't sigh. He didn't look annoyed. Instead, he smiled a real, warm smile and slowly took out his phone. He typed, "Hi. I'm Armin. I'm really happy to meet you." When she read it, something in her expression changed. Relief. Surprise. Maybe even gratitude. She typed back, "Hi. I'm Sana. Thank you for being patient." Across the room, hidden phones were already recording. They expected awkward silence. But something unexpected happened. Armin asked the waiter for paper and pen. He began writing instead of typing, because he noticed she seemed more comfortable reading handwritten words. They talked about simple things first: favorite food, favorite weather, favorite childhood memory. Sana was shy at first, but Armin never rushed her. When she struggled to explain something, he waited. Really waited. Not the impatient waiting people do when they're checking their watch, but the kind where your entire attention belongs to the other person. At one point, she wrote, "Most people get tired talking to me." He wrote back, "I talk all day at work. Listening is better." She stared at that sentence for a long time. Then she smiled, fully, freely, like someone who had just been given permission to exist without apology. Halfway through dinner, Armin noticed she kept adjusting her sleeve nervously. He didn't ask why. He simply rolled his own sleeves up slightly, silently saying, "You don't have to hide here." Later, she finally wrote, "People think deaf means broken." Armin paused. Then he wrote slowly, carefully, "My daughter thinks I'm her superhero. But I burn food, lose socks, and cry when she's sick. None of us are perfect. But we are not broken." Across the room, the coworkers stopped laughing. One of them whispered, "This isn't funny anymore." Then came the moment none of them expected. Armin's phone buzzed. Message from neighbor, "Hey, a fever again. Asking for you." His face changed instantly, not annoyed, not frustrated, just worried. He showed Sana the message and wrote, "My daughter is sick. I'm really sorry. I don't want to leave, but I need to." Sana nodded quickly and wrote, "Go. She needs you." He stood, then paused, then wrote one more thing, "Can I see you again? But next time, maybe we can meet my daughter too. She's shy but very kind." Sana's hands trembled slightly as she wrote, "I would like that." He paid the bill, thanked her with a small respectful nod, and left. No dramatic goodbye. No pity. No performance. Just respect. Just sincerity. Just human decency. The coworkers sat in silence. One girl quietly wiped tears. The guy who planned the prank closed his phone recording and whispered, "We're terrible people." Because they realized something. They had expected awkwardness, rejection, discomfort. Instead, they witnessed dignity. The next week, something changed at work. People spoke softer around Armin. Not out of pity, out of respect. And 2 weeks later, something even more unexpected happened. Sana visited the garage not to see Armin, but to drop off homemade cookies for Heya's recovery. Armin introduced them properly that weekend. Heya was shy at first. Hid behind Armin's leg. But Sana didn't force conversation. She sat on the floor and started drawing cartoons on paper. Heya slowly sat beside her. Then laughed. Then hugged her. Armin turned away for a second, because his eyes filled with tears. 6 months later, they weren't calling it dating anymore. They were calling it life. Because love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, writes notes instead of speaking, listens instead of impressing, and chooses patience over perfection. The co-workers who planned the prank were the first people invited to their small engagement dinner. Not out of revenge. Out of forgiveness. Because Armin believed something simple. Hurt people often don't know they are hurting others. And Sana believed something even simpler. Being understood is louder than being heard. Years later, Heya would tell her school friends, "I have 2 parents. One talks. One listens with her heart." And if you stayed with this story until now, maybe you understand something too. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more patient people. More people who choose kindness when nobody is watching. More people who see differences not as problems, but as stories waiting to be understood. If this story touched your heart even a little, support stories that remind the world what humanity looks like. Because every like, every share, every subscribe helps messages of kindness reach someone who might desperately need it today. And remember this. The greatest love stories aren't built on perfect circumstances. They're built on small, consistent acts of respect. And sometimes, the joke meant to embarrass someone becomes the moment that teaches everyone what real humanity looks like.